Now we're going to go to Pick a Struggle Cupcake, the new book, where I actually take a ride on the Pistachio green bicycle. So here's a story from that book. Chapter 10, The Voyage of the Pistachio Green Bicycle. Dragging the last few bits and pieces of my previous life from the back of the nearly vacant moving van, a blanket slipped to the floor of the hollow box, revealing the long-forgotten Pistachio green bicycle. It stood there, dignified and proud, with its solid metal frame and huge white leather seat balanced securely on supersized white wall tires. The sturdy steed had survived the 14-hour trek across 4 states to its new home in Minnesota. I stood and stared at the bike, realizing it had been almost a year since I had spotted her on the rack at the local Walmart and felt that love-at-first-sight notion. It had been 35 years since I had ridden a bike, and truthfully, I believed my bike riding days were far behind me. Yet, after losing nearly 250 pounds over the past several years, I was feeling a bit optimistic that afternoon. I could still remember the hopeful enthusiasm I had felt in my heart that day as I rolled her past curious shoppers to the register at the front of the store. When I arrived home that afternoon, I pulled the bike out of my car and set it down in my driveway, anxious to take it for a spin. Still quite chubby, I found it extremely difficult to climb up in the seat and balance myself on what now seemed like 2 tiny tires. After a few attempts, I realized purchasing the bicycle was only half the battle. Taking it for a ride would be the true victory. On this particular day, while rolling it down the ramp of the moving van, I felt a tremendous sadness in my heart as I conceded to the reality that after an entire year, I had not yet mustered up the courage to take the Pistachio green bicycle for even a single jaunt. The initial dreams I had entertained of rolling down country roads with the wind in my face and the sun on my back had quickly turned to nightmares of fatal falls, broken bones, and certain humiliation. Today was no different. As I pushed the kickstand down, a sense of guilt came over me, and I pondered the possibility of putting a for sale sign on it or in the local paper. Perhaps it was time to give up on this particular fantasy. After all, I had achieved so many other goals and aspirations since my massive weight loss. Maybe riding a bike just wasn't meant to be. With a heavy heart, I rode the bicycle to a dark corner of the cluttered garage and tossed a blanket upon her, subconsciously hoping that out of sight would really put it out of my mind. I turned off the light and watched the heavy garage door close like a tomb, leaving the forsaken bicycle in complete darkness. I thought I had given up on my dream that day, and then, quite unexpectedly and without warning, serendipity stepped in, and the destiny of the Pistachio green bicycle would forever change. I met Coach Mona quite accidentally one afternoon during lunch with my partner Sherry. The muscular woman, who stood well over 6 feet tall, strode through the doors with magnificent confidence and seated herself at our table. Upon introductions, I was made aware of the fact that she had been a college athlete superstar, an Olympic contender, and a professional basketball player. She had coached more than 75 teams through the years and was currently a phys ed instructor about to begin her 20th year teaching. As could be expected, she was intrigued by my 20-year battle with obesity. We had conversed for quite a while when the nearly forgotten Pistachio green bicycle found its way into the conversation. It was only halfway through the tale when she hastily said, "Let's do this." Startled by her abruptness, I stared at her in silence, not sure what turn the conversation had just taken. After a lengthy pep talk and motivational oration, Coach Mona had me quite convinced I could indeed ride the neglected bicycle, and more than that, she would be there to teach, train, and coach me through it. Trust me when I tell you that Coach Mona is not easily disregarded and does not accept no for an answer. Needless to say, Sherry and I, along with Max, her 11-year-old son, found ourselves standing in Mona's driveway that weekend, watching intently as she adjusted the pedals, seat, and handlebars for optimum comfort. Without much time for hesitation or uncertainty, she handed me a helmet and said, "Let's go." My heart was pounding and my knees were shaking, but I knew I would never have a whole team behind me like this again. So I climbed, with great difficulty, into the driver's seat. Coach Mona held me up on one side, and little Max did his best to hold up the other. Sherry, my partner, never one to miss an opportunity for sharing an inspirational story, tenaciously manned the video camera, which turned out to be a marathon filming event. Time after time, I relentlessly attempted to propel myself forward while turning the pedals beneath me. Desolate knees, which had not bent this far in decades, screamed in pain while sweat ran unseen down my back. As the sun rolled across the sky and the day slipped by, so did my hopes for ever for even a fleeting ride on the dogged green bike. Everyone was sunburned and tired. However, no one but myself appeared ready to throw in the towel. Sensing my despair and anguish, Coach Mona pulled me aside for a pep talk and an ice-cold bottle of water, and as could have been predicted, she coaxed me into one last attempt. Rolling up my pant legs and tightening my helmet, I mounted the pistachio green bicycle for one last try. Placing my foot on the white rubber pedal, I suddenly had a flashback to my childhood as my mother gripped the back of my seat on my first two-wheeler. I felt Coach Mona's hand dauntlessly replace hers on the back of my seat that hot July afternoon, but I sensed Mom's spirit lingering beside us as we took a deep breath and the wheels began to turn beneath me. In those few seconds, I found strength and courage like I had never realized. I stood up on the pedals and ignored the stabbing pain in my knees as the bicycle pushed forward. I could hear enthusiastic squeals and shouts of excitement behind me as Max and Mona let go of the handlebars. I felt the wind in my face as I glided down the road, pedaling madly and smiling on the back of my pistachio green stallion. I glanced back and saw Max and Coach Mona jumping with their hands in the air, while Sherry preserved the whole thing on film. Feeling a bit overwhelmed and out of control, I slammed on the brakes as Coach Mona ran beside me, making sure I did not fall. Neither of us could resist a smile as the bike came to a stop, and I realized that a dream which had begun nearly 1 year ago to the day had finally come full circle. I'd actually ridden the pistachio green bicycle, and I had all but given up. Granted, it had been a wild, wobbly ride with no athletic form or grace, but it was a beginning, a starting point, a place where determination found courage, and together they created a miracle. It was also just hours before my actual birthday, and a fitting way to end one journey just to begin another.